In today's gospel reading, we hear Jesus tell two stories called parables. Parables are short stories that have a single point. So the gospel reading today is about planting and seeds. So in this brief homily, I want to take a time trip with you. I want to start us in Palestine, Israel, 2,000 years ago. And then I want to move us to New York City, the Bronx, in the 1960s and 70s, and then on to our own day. So here we go, 2,000 years ago. Jesus tells a story about a mustard seed, the smallest seed in the world. And we all know about mustard seeds, about how a small seed and it grows into a mighty plant and so on and so on. One thing about mustard, though, is that while it is a tiny seed, as the mustard plant grows into a huge plant, a vine, it is an invasive species. If you plant a mustard seed in an empty field, in a relatively short period of time, the field will be covered with mustard plants. And once they're planted and established, you can't get rid of them. So while it's a nice story about a mustard seed, a small piece of faith, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, et cetera, the rest of the story is that it grows into a plant that you can't root out. It's just there forever. Well, that was the situation 2,000 years ago. Mustard seeds, invasive plants, once rooted in, you can't get rid of it. So now in our time travel, let's move to New York City in the 1960s and 70s. And specifically to a neighborhood, a borough called the Bronx. In those days, and somewhat to this day, the Bronx, at least parts of it, are blighted. Empty buildings, deserted plots of land filled with trash. How do you deal with that kind of blight and depression of living in a setting like that? Well, two ladies, Hattie Carthen and Liz Christie, had a vision at separate times and places, but their vision was generally aligned. And Hattie Carthen decided that she was going to take the empty, trash-filled lots in the Bronx and fill them with plants. And Liz came along later, and together they established what are known as community gardens, which exist to this very day. They took an empty lot, cleaned it up, planted trees, put in benches and grass so that people would have a place of respite and relaxation. That was 60, 70 years ago, and there's still community gardens spread around New York City, some 400, 500 of them. In fact, there's a community garden just across the street from the cathedral at the corner of 111th and Broad and Amsterdam. You can go in there, it's filled with plants, there are benches, it's a restful, peaceful place. But Hattie and Liz didn't just plant trees and plants, they invented what was called a seed bomb. And they would take seeds and push them together, and as they walked past an empty lot that was filled with weeds and trash, they would take their seed bomb and just heave it over the fence so that it landed in the yard, and from there the flowers grew. Well, I wonder, as we move to our own day, what kind of seeds are we planting in our own life and in our own community? And what about the seed bomb that we call the gospel of Jesus? The good news of Jesus is like the mustard seed. Once you hear the good news, once you even try to appropriate it in your life in the simplest and smallest of ways, once that seed is planted, you can't get rid of it. It's just there, and it grows and grows and grows. So I'm wondering what the seed of Jesus' gospel in our lives looks like. It looks like kindness. It looks like forgiveness. It looks like understanding. It looks like giving hope. It looks like going into the empty lots of this world in our lives and digging around and planting seeds and turning wasted spaces into places filled with life and hope. And we do this in our own relationships with those nearby or far away, through acts of kindness and love and respect and understanding. But then there are the seed bombs. Well, that's what you do with the seed that's been planted in you. Like Hattie and Liz, you make a seed bomb and you walk by the hungry, the homeless, the dispossessed, the victims of racial injustice and disequity, inequity, and you take the seed bomb of the gospel and heave it over those fences and walls. The end result of the seed bomb is, God willing, and God gives the growth, that kindness and respect and hope bloom. The point of the story is this: a seed has been planted in you. That seed needs nurturing and watering and tending. You have to use the seed to be kind. And the root is all kindness. The gospel of Jesus is about being kind. It's about God's kindness toward us, that we can come to the cathedral and to services, worship services, and approach God hopefully and confidently. I know church is a place where people feel like they come to be judged and told, don't do this, don't do that. And that's kind of not my vision of what church is about. Church is a place where sinners come to enjoy a feast, to hear about kindness and hope and what we can do in our own lives. Church is not a reward for saints. It's a place for sinners because God loves all of us as if there were only one of us to love. And all are welcome in this place because all are welcome in God's heart. So the seed of kindness has been planted in you. Now my question is, using that seed and its growth in your own life and soul, are you going out to make some seed bombs in the world around you and the people you know and love and who love you and people you don't like and they who don't like you? Try heaving a seed bomb of kindness and love. See what happens, and a beautiful plant will grow.